Private bank versus public bank. Why is it that people are moving towards private bank as compared to public bank? What is it which the public banks are lacking and which private bank are fulfilling? Let us see that in this video. For more than 2 decades, public sector banks managed to starve off the competition due to inherent trust people had in them due to government backing. As the next generation comes in with different attitude, they're equipped to serve them. Is that's the question. Now, earlier people used to trust public sector bank because they had the government backing. But since the new generation, which hardly bothers about whether it's backed by government or not, they want good services. And that is why there is a shift towards private sector banks. So, are the public sector banks not capable to serve them, the next generation? For half a century since bank nationalization, public sector banks dominated the credit flow to the economy. In 2019, private lenders accounted for around 69 rupees for every 100 rupees loan. And that's a significant shares. That means the private sector is lending more as compared to public sector banks. So, as the economy is adjusting towards the new reality, which is technology driven financial services, a robust bankruptcy law, phone banking, and plethora of competition from different players, uh, it is very important for the public sector banks to perform so that they are relevant. Because if they do not perform and give better services to the customers, they may perish. So it is not just the availability of capital that provides strength, but the skills and attitudes to face the digital world. And that is where the public sector bank is lacking on a big level. So it is not only deposits flow because of the or the government backing, but also efficient lending, efficient loaning to the customers is important. So RBI has come up with certain data financial year 2018-19. The collapse of banking, lack of vision and risk taking ability combined with the poor picture of state run banks. Uh, Also, the pathetic position of state run entities, BSNL, Air India, BHAL, which failed to keep the pace with the private sector, are now struggling for the survival. Unless government owned banks put their house in order, they would see a much faster decline in the coming years. And this will be very, very bad for these public sector banks. They will have to close down. Data shows that government owned banks' share of total credit outstanding fell to 60% at the end of March from 75% in 2012. Okay, now you can see almost 15% share has declined in total credit outstanding. Now, this is a big uh, decrease. Now, what is changing now? Now, public sector banks uh, were always the first choice for customers for providing banking services because of the trust, the faith in the people. Uh, every person believed that every penny of money is safe in these banks because they are backed by government. Further, private sector banking services, uh, there were hidden charges which were responsible for customer not coming to private sector banks. But now, uh, this belief is going away. And also, the people believed that the public sector banks would not be charging any hidden charges. So, these were the reasons why people were getting attracted to public sector banks. But since the younger generation gets prominence, technology, speed, uh, the millennial customers do not bother about whether a bank is state owned or private. That's the big difference. Public sector banks have to realize that there is a new generation of consumers that expect a certain standard of service, which the other private sector banking competitors are providing, both in terms of digital experience or technology, or even the branch banking services. Now, the future is going to be branchless. Brick and mortar bank branches are going to be non existent. The banks who are existing on technological platform will only exist. People don't have time to go to bank branches. They want easy customer interface on their mobile. Now even the seniors are moving into the digital age, which reflects surge in the electronic payment. The small ticket retail transactions worth 10.32 lakh in March 2019. Share of online deals has gone up to 61%, almost three times which was in 24% in 2016. This is a huge movement of people towards digital banking. In the payment space, digital wallets and non-bank UPI has covered, or in fact captured, a share of 14.7 in March 2019, and in 2016 it was just 1.6%. So can you imagine how fast these payment methods are capturing the market? Now, talent to complete. Now, this is also very important. Now, the biggest differentiator between the state owned banks, that is public sector banks, and private bank is the manpower, the quality of manpower, the approach, the attitude, the competence of the manpower of public sector banks. Now, all the public sector banks may have, in fact, they all have necessary infrastructure in place, core banking system, internet banking solution. But it's the people who are working in these banks who have a very lethargic approach, who have a very um, slow approach towards adopting to technology. The people don't want to get to a new system wherein they will make the work process even faster. The attitude needs to change. There is a need for ground level training exercise conducted by the government to bring the public sector banks uh, as per the best practices of the market. Also, the state owned banks have less pay package compensation, uh, which is quite less as compared to the private sector banks. So, also, the private sector gets more talent attracted to them. Public sector undertakings need to change people's strategy, put more feet on the street, redeploy its current manpower, train them for specialized functions, initiate lateral hires for specific function, and every bank, depending upon their strength, need to bring a bank approved board compensation. Legacy drag because of their own ownership structure. The public sector bank uh, have less focus on making profit but more on the welfare agenda, especially backed by the government. Also, cronyism has led to many decisions which have made many projects which are unviable. In the last 2 decades has almost seen huge amount of funds to private sector projects by public sector banks which are now languishing as bad loans. So, also the data which shows that public sector banks have gross NP of 11.6%, which is around 7.39 lakh crore, to the total loan pile of 9.36 lakh crore. So, private banks only only contribute 5.3% as bad loans. So this is quite a bad picture for the public sector banks. Also, the private sector banks are getting more deposits because the public sector banks are already languishing in bad loans and NPAs. That is deteriorating their performance. Also, public sector banks believes that this is a temporary phase, but this phase, which seems to be temporary, may not be temporary, and uh, the banks have to take certain steps to make them competitive. So it's not about the competition from only the private sector banks. They are also facing competitions from small finance bank, fintechs, non-banking lenders, and microfinance institution. And the competition is only getting fierce. So small banks, all the new undertakings which are being approved by uh, RBI, they are going to have a big competition for uh, the banks. So mergers are also going to have a big impact. So I believe that the private sector banks are doing a great job, and the public sector banks should take a lesson from these banks and what are these banks doing the right way, which the public sector banks are not doing, and accordingly they need to adapt to the new technology. Otherwise, it'll be all in vain. Thank you.